Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. We're unhinged today, Megan. We are unhinged today on the trade deadline.
You heard it here first. 2 shows today, everybody.
It might be 2 shows. It might be 3 shows. It might be 5 shows today. We don't even know. Welcome in Gorilla Sports Off Ice Trade Deadline Day edition. We are here at the Avalanche practice facility. I'm Jesse Montano. She is Meghan Angley. The deals are coming in fast and furious now, Megan. A little bit of a slower start to the morning in terms of maybe a lot of that stuff that we thought would be carrying over from yesterday. Didn't really. But boy, oh boy, is it all coming in now. Obviously, the Miko Rantanen deal, him going to the Dallas Stars. We'll get into all that. But right now, we do have some breaking news within the last few minutes. The Avs are not done, folks. We knew that they would continue to be wheeling and dealing, especially with Casey Mittelstadt's contract still on the books after acquiring Brock Nelson last night. Charlie Coyle has been traded from the Boston Bruins to the Colorado Avalanche. Right now, all we know is that Casey Mittelstadt is a part of that deal. We don't know the rest of the details yet. Still waiting to see. I guess, first of all, Megan, crazy day just in general. How are you doing? What are your initial thoughts on what we've seen the Avs do so far this morning?
I don't want anyone to think I'm rude. I'm looking at my phone as if I'm not a part of this conversation.
Today is you're on your phone, you're on your computer. Yes. My screen. I'm not even looking at my screen time at the end of the day.
No, it's going to be alarming, and I'm just getting the link out for this show and pulling up NHL Edge to talk a little bit more about Charlie Coyle. But I'm doing great otherwise because fortunately things were pretty quiet on the Avs front leading up to this. So an otherwise chaotic morning for me personally. It was kind of nice that they didn't do anything sooner. And it's exciting. It's like Christmas, especially if you're named Meghan Angley. And everybody you wanted for the Avs is coming here.
So, all right, let's pause there really fast because we put out was that on Monday, Chloe, that we put out our top 3 trade targets? Was that Monday or Tuesday? It was earlier this week. It doesn't matter. Chloe asked us what? Monday. It was Monday. Chloe asked us for what our top 3 trade targets were. Not necessarily, what was being rumored out there amongst. But hey, if we were interested, if we were Chris McFarland, what would we be wanting to bring in? Megan's list, number 1, Brock Nelson. Check. They got that done last night. Number 2. Charlie Coyle. Check, get that done this morning. And then a piece of credit that we didn't get to give you because we had to cut a show. Well, we didn't actually have to cut the show short. The show had gone long, so we had to stop. One of the D that was on your trade board was Ryan Lindgren. So if you want to know what the Avs are going to do at the trade deadline, just follow Meghan Angley because she's going to break it all for you about a week before it actually happens. Why was Charlie Coyle on your board, Megan?
Charlie Coyle was on my board. Honestly, it was sort of an and/or. I'm going to be transparent with you guys. I didn't expect them to acquire both Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle. Coyle was sort of an insurance policy for if you can't completely shore up that 2C position. This is a player that has played a top 6 role as a center for the Boston Bruins, but not full time. It was sort of like a JT Compher flex situation, the way that we saw Compher play up in the lineup here in Colorado. It wasn't a perfect fix. And so Charlie Coyle, though, I felt could help add a little bit of security back to the Avs top 6 down the middle. 32 years old, year 5 of 6 of his $5.25 million contract. So I thought, okay, it's not really a long-term commitment. I think he has good speed, gets up and down the ice. But what I really like is, I'm not going to describe it as physicality in the same way that I talked about Brock Nelson, but he's 6'3". He's got that long reach that adds a little bit of size down the middle that I think is going to be a different look from what the Avs have had previously. And his production has waned a little bit this year, but he's, had 44 or 45-point seasons prior to this. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that is a reflection of the struggles of Boston this year. And so the way in which he scores, I think, can be such a good solution for an Avs team that going back to January through February, because they've started to turn things around a little bit here in March, goal scoring was down on the whole. And they were looking at getting more from the rest of the lineup to contribute offensively. And I think that Charlie Coyle can be a big contributor in that way.
Well, I'm looking at their depth. Now, personally, Meghan, all right, so it's 12:21. We've still got about 40 minutes till the deadline, but always keep in mind, folks, that that's just when your deals have to be submitted by. There's still a long amount of runway where we will see deals trickle in. I would still like to see the Avs add another depth defenseman, and I think I would still like to see a true bottom six forward. Right now, here's what you're looking at down the middle, and this is where I think you got to be really excited. If you're Jared Bednar, this coaching staff, with the options suddenly that you've got running down the middle, you're suddenly looking at McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle, Drury. That's as good of a 1 through 4 as the Avs have had here in a while. Lehkonen, McKinnon, Netchus, and this is from Drew Livingstone, producer Drew on Twitter. Big shout out to him, SDPN. SDPN. Producer Nachushin, Nelson, Drouin, Kivy Ranta, Coyle, Colton, VC, Drury, O'Connor. It's those last two left wings there that I still would like to see them maybe be able to upgrade on a little bit. But you've got to feel so much better about the depth that you have right now versus where you did when you made that Miko Rantanen trade 6 months ago.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments too. I'm still on this Coyle train. He is a shoot first type of forward, and he plays from the slot. When I made this trade board, he had 13 goals on the year. He's up to 15 now, but 11 of those 13 goals came from inside the slot. And so that is a player who's going to be willing to drive inside ice, and with a little bit of that size. Again, it's not a brooding physicality, but that's a player that's going to be more effective in driving inside ice. I talked a little bit about his ability to get up and down the ice. It's not that he's the strongest two-way 200-foot player, but he has a motor that doesn't quit, good speed bursts that's going to match the Avs pace. I do think this is an upgrade over Casey Middlestat. Even though his production on the year has been down a little bit, I think he's going to benefit from that Colorado bump that a lot of other players experience as well.
Let me throw a phrase at you and let me know if you agree. Jared Bednar guy?
I'd say so. I think too he is like a marble slab that can be crafted into a Jared Bednar guy too very easily. I think that he will thrive in the Avs system and under a Bednar coach. I think you're going to see then that 200-foot game a little more effective from him than maybe we've seen this year from him in Boston. Well,
and this just feels like a really nice fit at 3C for this team. Charlie Coyle has been used as a top 6 guy, a second-line center in a lot of his past usage. And really, even this morning, I was talking with Corey Massasak, Evan Rawls, as we were here, just watching all this stuff trickle in. And we were saying, is Casey Middlestat really a 3C? I'm not saying that he's not good enough to be a third-line center, but, is that the role you want him in? Is what you're looking for out of a third-line center, is that what Casey Middlestat's going to give you? And to me, I didn't think so. That's, he's not that type of guy. Charlie Coyle is the perfect type of guy and is probably even a little bit better than a third line center.
Yes.
And that's why I think this really just makes a lot of sense.
You have the skilled players that when they're moved to more of a depth role, they don't necessarily thrive because they don't have blue collar habits. I think Charlie Coyle is a player that can, and that's what I mean, that coming to Colorado, I think he's going to have to refine that part of his game a little bit. Not so different from what Jonathan Drouin had to do. He found success pretty quickly in Colorado, and I could see kind of a similar trajectory, though, in a more defined depth role for Coyle, coming pretty easily to him.
Yeah, like I said, I really like this move. I like what the Avs are doing here. Look, Chris MacFarland recognizes not only what Nathan MacKinnon told us last night. These are their years.
Yes.
They have to be going for it. He recognizes not only that, but he's recognizing what commitments he's already made this season and the moves that he's already made. We've already overturned the goaltending. We've already moved on from Miko Rantanen, in a huge deal. We have to finish the job here, at least in terms of what the front office can do. Like Nathan MacKinnon also said last night, it's on the players to now go out and take it the rest of the way.
We deserve this. Yeah.
Right. But, Chris MacFarland, you and I talked about it. They would not have allowed, and when I say they, I mean ownership, front office, Joe Sakic, Chris MacFarland's boss, the Cronkies, would not have allowed him to trade Miko Rantanen if he didn't have a plan for what he was going to do to round out this roster in the way that made sense. They clearly put that support behind him, and he's executing it to the best of his ability. So
it is interesting to talk about Rantanen in this conversation. I have to imagine the Rantanen to Dallas. It just sort of is like, okay, this is what we gave up on. It felt so within reach. We need to make this worthwhile then. We need to ensure that moving on from Rantanen was the right decision. And it's not solely because of that.
Do have the return here, just so you know. So to Colorado, it is Charlie Coyle and a 5th-round pick on the way to Boston. Casey Middlestat, Zellers, and a 2nd-round pick.
Oh, Zellers was a prospect I like, but I mean, he's so far in the prospect pool that I'm not going to get carried away about what that loss means.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying, "Ooh, that's kind of expensive." I don't think so. I think you are getting an upgrade on Casey Middlestat. And I think you're getting a player that's better fit for this role. And I think you're getting a player in Charlie Coyle. And, let's go back to last night, Brock Nelson. These are players that help move you forward in the playoff race, help move you forward once you get to the postseason and you're having to go through Dallas and Winnipeg and these kind of longer, more grueling series. These are the types of players that are going to help you without fully sacrificing what the identity of this team is. And, because we see teams do it all the time. Toronto did it a couple seasons ago. Maybe we're not the fast skilled guys. Maybe we need heavy, brute, strength and all that stuff. And it just too much of an identity shift. I think it makes a lot of sense.
The other thing is the Casey Middlestat of it all. It's going to cost a little bit to move on from Middlestat, year 1 of 3 of his contract. Coyle just 1 more year left and $500K less. This gives Colorado an out of a 2C option that wasn't going to work for them in the future.
Yep.
It's a shame that it didn't too. We've had the Casey Middlestat conversation for long enough, but it was important for them to get out of this so that they can pursue a more serious 2C fit in the future. And so, it's not necessarily a Charlie Coyle. Brock Nelson is a rental, but now they have some flexibility in what they can pursue for that position outside of this season. They're not anchored to the Middlestat contract.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And look, the other thing that, Megan, I feel like we have this conversation every year at the deadline and now with every passing trade. Folks got to realize they don't award a trophy at the end of the year for the team that has the most draft picks in the cupboards. There's no banners hung for who has the most exciting prospect. You're trying to win a championship, and this team has 2 of the top 3 players in the world, in my opinion, in the lineup right now every single night. You went out and made a move for a goaltender that has put himself in the Vezina conversation. Connor Hellebuck's going to win it again, but I would not be surprised at all if Mackenzie Blackwood found himself as a finalist for the Vezina. You have, in my opinion, what should be a perennial Jack Adams Award finalist. These are the types of moves you make when you are in this position. Like I said yesterday on our quick kind of post-game recap, this is the ebb and flow of the NHL. In 10 years, the Avalanche will be on the other side of this. You hope maybe longer than that. You hope you get a run like the Penguins where it's closer to 15, 20 years. The Avs will eventually be on the other side of this, and they will have older veteran players that they're moving out to recoup picks and high-end prospects and things like that. They're trying to win a Stanley Cup championship right now. Right below where we're sitting, there's a hallway where there's a banner painted on the wall. It's got all the Stanley Cup years they've won, all 3. They're trying to add another year to that. They're trying to add 2025 to that. I know when you look at the price on some of this stuff, 2nd-round picks, 1st-round picks, Cal Ritchie, that's a prospect that you and I are both really high on.
Right.
This is what you do. This is how you go out, and this is how you attempt to win championships. It's how Tampa Bay won back-to-back. It's how Chicago won 3 in 6 years. You have to make these moves that are a little bit uncomfortable, and you hope you can navigate the waters the right way, and that you get a little bit of luck along the way. But this is what you have to do. And right now, nobody could make the argument and convince me that this Avalanche team isn't significantly better than they were when you and I talked on the podcast on Monday.
No, it's the reality of where this team is at. Because when we go back to an era of hockey where players like Landeskog were being drafted to the organization, and Miko Rantanen and Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, that was the time in their trajectory as an organization to be capitalizing on having those high draft picks, using them, and developing those players into a part of a future core. The future is here now. That's the core. That's why they're in this competitive window. Obviously, Miko Rantanen no longer a part of it, but That's why. It's because that they tended to that in the past, and they'll have to tend to it in the future. But right now, the goal is to chase more cups.
Yeah.
And it comes at an expense. I also think this is an organization. You shouldn't underestimate their ability to replenish picks through trades along the way. And then the other thing I want to shout out is both the amateur and pro scouting department, but especially the amateur scouting department. Having some of the success that they've had, being able to add to the lineup around the fringes in a Malinsky as a free agent out of college, or even the late round picks in a Taylor McCarr, who's become a serious prospect, or Nikita Prishepov, another late round pick, wasn't even at the draft, becomes a serious prospect that can help the Avs in the future. It's important to make note of the ways the organization has grown in that way. I don't know that we've seen homegrown prospects in that sense, because, Malinsky, not a conventional or traditional prospect. I think the organization is finding other ways to grow and add unconventionally that I don't want to miss sight of either. Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I saw a comment that came through and said, I just don't think Charlie Coyle's that good. And look, everyone can have their opinions on players. I know I do. I know you do. There's players that you and I disagree on how good we think they are, how effective we think they are, whether it be on the Avs or otherwise. But here's what I like so much about what the Avs are doing with the Ryan Lindgren trade, with the Brock Nelson trade, and now with this Charlie Coyle trade. We'll see what else comes down here in the next 30 minutes. I feel like they are taking players and they're putting them in a role that's maybe a rung below what they were on their previous team. Right. So, the comment that came through, I don't know if Charlie Coyle is that good. Not that Chris McFarland agrees with you thinking he's not that good, but Chris McFarland maybe agrees with you that, he's not a 2C. Yeah, that's why we got Brock Nelson. Right. We got Brock Nelson, who is a first-line center on his last team. We're asking him to come in and play behind Nathan McKinnon. And we're not asking Charlie Coyle to come in here and be that second-line center that's got to shut down and take – no. You're going to go be the third-line center. You're going to be an energy guy. You're going to – and now suddenly you're creating problems in the bottom six of your lineup. And it's the same thing with Ryan Lindgren. They took him off of the top pair and are asking him to be more of a 4-5 guy here. That's the other part that I do think is so valuable in terms of what they're doing, and what, the other part that people have to recognize is they're not asking these guys to come in and be what they were, in the roles that they were in their previous teams. No, we're asking you to come in and take a little bit of a lesser role, but be more effective doing it. Yeah. And I think that's the other part that I'm impressed with the way that they've been able to put this together. It makes me think of two things, because alongside that conversation, that's where you realistically couldn't expect Cal Ritchie then to just jump into a top six role. If even a Brock Nelson is playing 2C on this current Avs team, I'm just not seeing that leap for Cal Ritchie in the next year to be utilized in a top six role. Kind of like we talked about last night with Alex Newhook. Cal Ritchie's path to the NHL was going to start in a depth role. And that was going to take a little bit of time before we saw the upside of that ceiling, which is high for this player. And you look at even the Casey Middlestat conversation, Lindgren is an upgrade over DeHaan. Maybe Lindgren isn't your exact guy, but he's still an improvement over DeHaan. And similarly, Casey Middlestat as a 3C making $575 Chloe is not going to be the most efficient way to fill that role for the next 2 years. Whereas Charlie Coyle makes a lot more sense as a 3C, $500K less, and just for one more year, it's still an improvement. I have picked up this phone 4 times to check Charlie Coyle's contract status and how much is left on it. Yes, keep getting distracted, so thank you. One more year, $525. Casey Middlestat was in year 1 of 3 of $575. And just think to yourself, who's a better 3C? That's a very different type of role to fill. Casey Middlestat, finesse, playmaking, skill. But does he have what it takes to dig in deep and bring the energy that a third line brings? I'm not sure. And honestly, Casey Middlestat, it's been a little inconsistent on that front for him this year. And so it just makes so much more sense in the immediate. It's maybe not like your number one thing that you wanted, or it's a little expensive, but it's still less expensive than Casey Middlestat, which was the room we were just in. Well, and you've got to pay this time of year. That's the part that I keep coming back to. Some of the prices that we've seen out there today, really in the last 72 hours, have been outrageous. Tampa Bay paying multiple first-round picks for Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. 2 guys that probably aren't really top 6 guys. They're more, middle 6, third-line guys. They paid multiple first-round picks for that. Right. Some of the prices that we've seen come in across other deals today, it's a seller's market.
there's more buyers than sellers in the NHL this year. So yeah, you're having to pay a little bit of a higher price. But I do like the fact that you're calling out Casey Middlestat. You're saving money on this deal. You're shedding salary on this deal for a guy that I think is going to be a lot better fit for that role. A lot of talk about Miko Rantanen. You and I haven't had a chance to talk about it. Avs practice is getting going here in about 25 minutes. We got goalies warming up behind us out here. So we got Yoel Kiviranta, looks like Ross Colton out there, as well as Parker Kelly out there with both goaltenders getting warmed up. They'll head over to the sheet over here, like I said, in about 20 minutes. We're planning on staying live here through the deadline and a bit after. We're kind of on our toes, though. We are going to hear from Brock Nelson today, so we'll have to get down there to talk to him. We're going to hear from Chris McFarland as well today, so we will have a lot more content coming your guys' way. But like I said, the plan right now is to stay live here through 1 p.m. and beyond as things trickle in, but we're going to stay vigilant, stay a little bit fluid here to see what's going on and when we got to get down to the locker room so we can make sure we're bringing you guys everything for Brock Nelson as well. Your thoughts on Miko Rantanen less than 2 months after the Avs deal him out east, and the hope is, hey, we don't have to see him again until next year, twice a year. We only have to meet him in the finals. Now he is in division for what is likely the rest of his career. You're going to be seeing this guy 4 to 5 times a year, and not only will you have to go through Miko Rantanen to get to the Stanley Cup final, you're probably going to have to go through Miko Rantanen to get to the second round in a lot of instances, like is a chance this year. Your thoughts on that deal? Logan Stankoven, 2 firsts, 2 thirds from Miko Rantanen, Carolina Hurricanes.
What a mess this has been for Miko Rantanen, for Carolina. You know, outside of Colorado, it feels like they come away actually pretty clean hands in all of this. This is not what Miko Rantanen would have wanted if you could go back in time. I think things unraveled so quickly and the door was closing. You know, this idea of what his value would be, I don't want to call it an overestimation on behalf of his team, his agent, and himself, but things unraveled quickly in terms of wanting to be an advocate for himself and know his worth. It's now come down to sacrificing a little bit of happiness. You know, the reports of how shocked Miko Rantanen was in the weeks following the trade are really telling, that he loved playing in Colorado. You know, he built a decade-long friendship with a lot of these players. And for it to come down to, I don't know, like 4.4% more in Dallas because of the lack of the state tax, that doesn't feel like it would have been the difference maker if he had just been a little bit more flexible in negotiations in Colorado. And I think there's still some onus on the agent.
I agree.
Made this tricky. I don't know that Miko Rantanen realized that this was hanging on a knife's edge because they had been in negotiations leading up to the trade. He probably thought that line of communication was still open, that maybe they do reach that kind of a number in Colorado. But I think things really went sideways for him, and so I hate it. I hate that he plays for Dallas. I hate it so much. I don't even know that it's going to be a great fit. He's going to help that team, but I don't know that we're going to see Miko Rantanen be what he was in Colorado and Dallas.
The same thing.
I'm going to say something so controversial. Miko Rantanen is elite as a complimentary player to a star, and I'm just not, but not a Dallas star. And so I'm just not sure that he's going to have that same effect, because I think, you know, you saw that he's clearly a top tier NHL player, even in Carolina. I know that he was off to a little bit of a slow start, and some of that was just going to improve with time. I don't know that there's an environment that he can thrive in quite the same way as Colorado, and I certainly don't think it's Dallas.
Well, you know, Megan, I've even made the argument that I don't even necessarily think that it's that he needs to be with Nathan McKinnon or a player of that caliber. I think we also, and I also want to reiterate what you were saying. I think Miko Rantanen's an elite hockey player.
I do too.
I think he's an elite goal scorer, and I think he's going to continue to do well, very well, wherever in Dallas. I was going to say wherever he ends up, in Dallas. That said, I do think that not only playing with Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, I think he was in a system here that was set up well for him to thrive and be set up for success. And yeah, I do just wonder if, you know, the minutes were way down in Carolina. The way he was being used was a little bit different. And I do just wonder what that's going to be like in Dallas as well. Again, I think he's going to continue to be a very good player, but will he continue to be, a top 5, point getter in the league like he was for a lot of stretches here in Colorado? I don't know. Time will tell. I have to imagine, though, look, I don't think Chris McFarland's going to lose any sleep over it. Like you said, I think when it's all said and done, they probably come out looking the best.
Yeah.
In the way that the deal, and I also do think that it has helped underscore why the Avs did what they did. Miko Rantanen clearly had a number or a value in mind that they wanted to get to. I also don't think it's a surprise that the two teams that he said he would accept an extension from, as part of this trade, were Florida and Dallas, two teams that don't have to deal with state tax. So he is going to make, if he signed the same deal in Colorado, he'd be making about $4-ish million less than what he's making here in Dallas. So, you can't deny the money thing, but I have to imagine that Chris McFarland, given the efforts they went to move him out east, is probably a little like, are you kidding me?
Like, oh.
To not only bring him back out west, but to put him in the division.
Yeah. You're right. The path to the Cup is going to run through Dallas for Colorado for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
That's the window that they're in as an organization too. But I don't know. It's not like Miko Rantanen, it switches so quickly that he's now a villain in my eyes, but he plays for Dallas. So he kind of is. So I don't know that, Nathan MacKinnon's going to get up for those matchups against Dallas. And I got to give it to Miko Rantanen specifically.
Right.
But I think it's going to charge up those matchups in a big way. And I hope it brings out the best in Colorado.
Well, and, I do wonder with this too, because, I don't think. Yeah. All right, we did just get word practices starting a little bit early. So, again, that may cut into what we're doing here. We're trying to keep an eye on what's going on. We'll see if Brock Nelson is expected to be on the ice. We'll get whatever footage we can of him.
Apparently he already is because they started 10 minutes early.
So I think Chloe's going to run down and see if we can't get some shots of Brock Nelson in his new gear. Yeah, just go down over there.
Is he 11? Did we get confirmation?
We have not. Hey, Chloe, see if you can see what number he's wearing. He's listed as 11 online, but we'll see.
On a scale from 1 to 10, he's an 11.
11. But I know a lot of
moves.
I know a lot of Avs fans are maybe feeling a little bit differently right now about. I've seen a lot of people saying that Miko is going to get booed and things like that. I didn't think so because I felt like it ended relatively amicably. He didn't ask to be traded out, nothing like that.
Give Nelson 96.
But yeah, geez. But I do wonder what level of animosity there's going to be from Miko Rantanen towards the organization. If he wanted to stay here and he felt spurned, is the organization, is there bad feelings there because he didn't want to sign? Like I said, I actually think that all this should make Avs fans feel better and more confident about what Chris McFarland did, because clearly Miko Rantanen had a very specific number in mind that he wanted to get to in terms of what money he was taking home.
And I'm not a rich person, so I can't really talk about what amount of money becomes negligible in the end. But it just feels like it came down to an amount of money for a rich person that's negligible in the end. And so I can't help if you're your Miko's teammates here, like MacKinnon, and you're like, that was all it came down to. That was the difference between you staying here and not.
Right.
I don't know, Miko. That doesn't feel like a lot in the grand scheme of things.
The report was about $250,000 difference. The Avs are offering 11.75 across 8 years, and that he signs for 12. So,
but haven't you heard that there were even some talks it could have been an 8x12?
That's right. Yes, we've even heard that the Avs were potentially, and this is purely just hearsay. Take this with a big grain of salt.
Except I know everything.
Right. Except if Meghan says it or tweets it out. That the Avs were potentially even willing to go all the way up to 12.5, just below the Nathan MacKinnon number if push really came to shove. And again, so you're talking, all right, $250K across 8 years difference. All right, well, there's $4 million. Then you add in the state tax stuff. There's another $4 million. So, it's tough, Meghan, because, what he got in Dallas ultimately versus what he could have gotten here. We are getting word Brock Nelson, number 11 for the Colorado Avalanche, and he is skating with that second line, wearing a burgundy jersey right now.
Number.
So there you go, number 11, Brock Nelson. But so you are talking about what?
It just made me think of the impact Andrew Cogliano had on the Avs Cup run.
There you go.
Hopefully there's something poetic about the impact that Brock Nelson can have.
I saw the light bulb literally illuminate.
Didn't it just feel like he was this missing piece? You know, going
Nelson
back,
or Cogliano?
Cogliano.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, man, this just brought such a different voice to the locker room, a different perspective, and it ended up being so huge in their leadership group. I'm not saying Brock Nelson is Andrew Cogliano, but they're going to wear the same number.
They're going to wear the same number. Miko, you know, so you're saying, okay, he's $8 million. That was the difference between him staying and him going. Like you said, I don't know.
Is divided over the term of that contract?
Correct. Yeah. So $1 million a year. Is that worth, you know, the upheaval, the moving, the double moving, the shock that came with the initial trade? I don't know. Miko Rantanen is the only one that can answer that. You know, if he had a do-over, maybe he would want to do it differently.
Yeah.
Maybe he's happy with where he landed. Look, Dallas is I've heard nice things about people that live there, or from people that live there, that it's a good place to live. No state tax. It's warm weather. And look, like he knows he's going to be there for the rest of his career. There's a nice Finnish mafia on that Dallas Stars team. So I don't know. Like I said, maybe at the end of the day, he's fine with where everything landed. But it does. I do wonder if, you know, you gave him some truth serum, if he'd want to do this over again.
I'm sure Carolina would. Like Martinet just said, I'm not sure why they didn't have the extension finalized before they completed the deal.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, geez. I mean, truthfully, in all of this, now they do get a pair of first-round picks, and they get Logan Stankoven, who's a very good young player. But, you know, Megan, like I was making the argument, hey, there's Kyle Keefe. There he is. I was making the argument of, like, if you're Carolina, do you really give a shit about 2 first-round picks? You're trying to win a Stanley Cup. Like, you just gave up a lot to get Miko Rantanen and just to turn around and flip him for futures? I don't know.
It's, you know, it's better than the alternative of Rantanen walking for nothing in the free agency. So I get, okay, it's better than nothing, but yikes. There's just been a lot of loss here. And it's our gain. I just look at the fit of Netchus in Colorado and Drury, and I'm like, you know, if there was a world where Miko Rantanen could still be on this team, I still think they needed Netchus and Drury. So they're a really important part of this puzzle. I think the best is yet to come with Netchus in Colorado. Yeah,
I agree. And I think, you know, he's every day fitting in better and better. And I think that the overall makeup that you've been able to put together, like I said, you feel a lot better about than you did about where your roster was 6 weeks ago. That's just, you know, especially with the way that Netchus has been able to elevate. Look, the reality is you did still this season trade away one of the league's perennial goal scorers. But I think what they've done with that, and like what you and I talked about when that deal was made, was we said, hey, whoa. We're going to wait till March 7th. We're going to reserve judgment on this deal till March 7th. Well, given what's happened with Carolina, I think it already looks better on the Avs for this deal. And look, we've still got a little bit of time. I'm still expecting that in the next 10 minutes plus, the Avs are going to get another defenseman in here, whether it be a 6-7 or a 4-5. I think they are still going to get another player in here. And we're going to be able to look at the whole picture of all this and say, yeah, they did all right with the extra money and the extra flexibility that they had carried over.
Yeah, I look at the goal scoring that's been replenished between a combination of Nelson and Coyle, and Nelson's a routine 35 goal scorer. I think Charlie Coyle, you know, he's at 15 goals now on the season. With a Colorado bump, I think he can get to 20 himself. That's some pretty decent production added into this lineup to help make up for some of that ground that they've lost in Miko Rantanen.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you're doing it by committee here. What else from deadline day today, Megan, that has stuck out to you? Scott Lawton goes to the Maple Leafs. That fetches a first-round pick.
Expensive.
Peter Mrazek going to Detroit just now. Yeah, let's see. It's just...
Isn't it funny that Miko Rantanen monopolized trade deadline headlines as well as just being the headline of the trade from Colorado originally? It's like He needed to be the center of attention at every turn.
Well, and I would love to know what this trade process was like for him, because he was so shocked by the last one.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it even took him a while to cope with it and to even get his bearings on how to process. I imagine that feels not all that dissimilar to a breakup, especially Miko Rantanen having been here for a decade. This is something that he had a lot more control over. He had a lot more leverage with. I just love to know what this process was like for him versus the one from 6 weeks ago.
No, I think there was a sense of, I need to take back control of a situation that fell out of my control.
Yeah.
And so I doubt that this was his best case scenario, but he wanted to at least make the decision for himself this time.
Yeah, and he got to do that. And look, people can criticize players all they want, whether it be in this situation or otherwise. This is the right that Miko Rantanen has earned. I think you made that point a minute ago of Miko Rantanen's put in a lot of time in the NHL. He won a Stanley Cup. He was very good for the Colorado Avalanche. He's signed he had signed a long-term contract here before, and a lot of that culminates in earning the right to be able to go out and test the market and take back a little bit of control of your situation. You cannot like that he didn't stay in Colorado. If you're Carolina, I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there that are not Miko Rantanen fans anymore. But this was all well within his right, and give credit to Miko Rantanen. He got the money he wanted. He landed on another contending team. I'm sure when the dust settles in a year from now, Miko Rantanen will feel good about all of this. But hey, he exercised his right.
He did. That is true.
That is a thing that happened. What else is on your list for what you want to see them do? We are 7 minutes out from the deadline. Nothing new yet. You can head on over to Gorilla Sports Twitter to get your first look at Brock Nelson in an Avalanche, not necessarily uniform, practice uniform, as practice is getting underway here. 7 minutes to the deadline.
I got to put on eyelashes.
Megan's got her. Yeah, she's got to put on her eyelashes.
Don't look at me.
But we've got media here that we're all kind of around. We'll be hearing from Chris McFarland a little bit later today. Corey Massasak right over there. Kyle Keefe walking by a minute ago.
Evans.
I was going to say,
first with eyes on Brock Nelson.
Come here.
Evan, what did you just say?
Evans.
That's crazy.
Evans flipping everybody off right now.
Don't curse. Lower your voice.
Stop. He's yet red in the face. Thumbs up or thumbs down, Charlie Coyle deal. We got a middle thumbs on it.
We got a middle stack.
Price? Is that what you don't like?
It's more
Evan
than Evan would have paid.
The price was more than he would pay, but he gave a shoulder shrug and said, it is what it is. Hard-hitting analysis from Evan Rowell. He's in the middle of writing. That's why he didn't want to come talk to you guys. What else do you want to see them do in the next 5 minutes? I say 5 minutes, knowing that we'll have stuff trickling in after.
Phone calls that are still active.
Right. You've got to be in the queue for Central Registry by 1 p.m. Anything else you want to see them do? I do still think they need another defenseman.
I agree.
I don't like that you are an injury away from having to play Keaton Middleton in the playoffs. With all due respect to Keaton Middleton, anything else you want to see them do today?
Yeah, it's the defenseman ad, that actually feels a little more important than the depth piece, but I do want that too. Like you said, between Kiviranta, VC, what's still floating around in that conversation somewhere, I just feel like one upgrade there that just feels like a surefire, full-time, fourth-line guy in the same way of Helm, Cogliano, and OC. Like, that's just a different kind of tier. It set a new standard for what a fourth line can be in a cup run, and I think they're close with how the bottom six is constructed. I think they're one piece away, though, from it feeling a little more complete there.
I'm with you. I'd like to see a fourth line ad, and then a depth defenseman. I don't need anything crazy.
No.
I know we've been talking a lot about Mario Ferraro in the last week. That might be a little bit too rich of an ad at this point. If you can get one other piece, bottom part of your lineup, both up front and on the back end, I think you feel really good about it.
Yep.
Has there been any deal that has really caught your attention this year, abs or otherwise?
Miko Rantanen.
Yeah.
That's the biggest trade of this year in my eyes. I'll have to think about what's been going on around the league. That caught my.
I'm gonna pull up a list here in just a second, but looks like Brock Nelson is right now with Jonathan Drouin and Val Nichushkin. I really like that line.
Yeah,
I really like that line.
Somebody DM'd me about his star sign. I won't. He's a Libra.
Do I need to get Chloe on this set?
You've got water, fire, and air. It's a great balance, guys. It's perfect.
We're talking about how balanced the line is on their star signs. So you might need to come tap in for me.
No, that's it. We're done there. We're done now.
But I like that group, and I think that's the makeup. That's the type of makeup that you're looking for on a line. I think that's what Brock Nelson can add. You really like the size now suddenly aligned with him and Val Nichushkin. That's a tough line to handle, and it's going to take them a few games to get acclimated. But I think when you see that group put together, this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, these are the ideas that you have in mind when you're putting these types of combinations together.
Yeah, to include. No, I'm just kidding. But you're right. It does feel, too, like they've given themselves a little bit of insurance. There's some flexibility in how this forward group is constructed in the top 9, in my opinion. There's some versatility to a Charlie Coyle who, if needed, can play up in the lineup a little bit. You don't want it as a permanent thing, but it's an option there.
And I'm trying to pull up where we are at for just all of the deals
I like Bama
today.
Metcalf's comment. You can't teach size. They did get bigger, undeniably so.
Yeah, for sure. And Charlie Coyle included in that as well.
Big
just
boy.
Harder to play against. The Avs, Chris McFarland told us earlier this year, they weren't deep enough. They weren't hard enough to play against. And that's what they've been able to solve for at least a bit here. We'll continue to watch what happens over the next little bit. But they got bigger. They got harder to play against. And, as pointed out there, that's the kind of stuff that you can't teach. All right, let's see. How about Luke Shen fetching a second-round pick? Winnipeg Jets paying Pittsburgh Penguins. Kuzmenko traded to the Kings from the Flyers. Dylan Cousins. That was another significant one with significant pieces going back.
Kind of a Bella de Ball for this deadline. So you expected him to be moved. You just weren't sure where he was going to land.
A first-round pick. The Edmonton Oilers pay for Jake Wallman. Oliver Shillington to the Ducks for future considerations. Carson Soucy going to the Rangers. Let's see. And we are starting to get word of teams that are done for today. Montreal done, as we are less than 60 seconds from the deadline coming and going. We will see what calls are in queue. Nico Sturm going to the Panthers.
I like that.
Me too.
Florida.
I like that one a lot. I think we saw what he was able to add here. Now, here's one thing that, again, we're going to keep an eye what happens in the next few minutes. But as of right now, it looks like the Edmonton Oilers opt not to add in net. If you were the Oilers, would you have been comfortable putting another year of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl Prime on the backs of Stuart Skinner, who in recent weeks has kind of lost that starting role a little bit to old friend Calvin Pickard?
No, you just can't take a lot of comfort in that. I think, too, they had forward excess. I won't even call it depth because some of where they had excess was top of the lineup. That could have been a part of a piece to bring about more solid goaltending. And I'm not going to pretend like I am locked into the front office of the Edmonton Oilers, but it does seem like that might be something they look back on in hindsight, regrettably. Yeah.
And again, we're gonna continue to see what trickles in here over the next few minutes. But Meghan, you and I may need to start wrapping this a little bit just as we're going to have to get over to the locker room, but we are not done for today. Chloe. That Charlie Coyle would. So Chloe was just pointing out that on the pod, Meghan, you had called out just not only that you like Charlie Coyle, but where specifically you think that he'd have a good fit. And you mentioned what Chloe was pointing out was it was with the two forwards that right now Brock Nelson is skating with. And I think that just kind of punctuates and underscores the kind of depth that the Avs are getting here. This is a player that you said, yeah, this could be a good 2C for the Avs. The Avs are getting him to slot in on that third line.
Yeah, it's like in that conversation with Charlie Coyle, I did not know a Brock Nelson was going to be in the picture. And so it's just made better because I like a Charlie Coyle than with a Ross Colton, Logan O'Connor. It gets me excited. Jack Drury on that fourth line, I think elevates it.
Last minute, sounds like Brad Marchand potentially to the Florida Panthers at the literal deadline. We will keep an eye on that.
That's so dangerous.
But it does sound like the Blackhawks are done for the day, and they did hold on to Ryan Donato. That was another player that you and I had targeted as potentially a fit for the Avs. But Brad Marchand, a player that you and I talked about a lot, it looks like at the last second, Brad Marchand may be going to the Florida Panthers. They fully did decide to flip the script. They were too far out of it. The Boston Bruins ended up being sellers.
Yeah.
We'll see if that deal gets over the line. But
yeah, if Brandon Carlo wants to be the last-minute defenseman ad from Boston, if they're dismantling the whole thing,
right, if you're tearing it all down,
put him on a flight with Charlie. Send him our way.
So we will keep an eye on that. If that gets over the line, I'm with you. That's a dangerous ad in Florida.
Yeah, they just got pretty competitive. Why didn't they give us Carlo? I was willing to give up a lot.
Let's see. And again, I apologize. This is terrible podcasting, me sitting here scrolling through my phone, but just keeping an eye. Brock Besser staying with the Canucks. They choose not to move him. They are done for the day. Boston not announcing that they're done yet. We haven't heard from the Avs that they're done yet. We will be talking to Chris McFarland here shortly after practice wraps up. So like I said, we are going to start winding it down here on the show, but we have a lot more content coming your way, and we got to go make sure that we're all put together for the rest of that content to be coming. We are going to hear from Brock Nelson as well today. We'll get thoughts from everyone on Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, any other moves that they make trickling in. We may also try to ask a couple folks about what they think about Miko Rantanen ending up back in the Central Division. Meghan, help me put a bow on this. For right now, we might end up going live later, depending on what else comes in. We might just recap everything. We might just do a video for you guys, but a ton more content coming later. Keep an eye on on Twitter to get the latest updates on what we will be doing. Meghan, your thoughts on what we've seen right now? I know that we're going to sign off and they're going to do something. So I'm just already bracing for that reality. But right now at 104, what are your thoughts with what the Avs are doing? Here is another report. Nothing else coming from the Oilers. So they are done. They are going with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard.
Chloe has my permission to throw a water bottle.
What was that for? Arif Dean walking by. Which part? All of it? Charlie Coyle. He gave us a mind blown, and it was for the Charlie Coyle edition. What are your thoughts now through 1:05 p.m.?
I feel like I can't have a final thought until I know they're officially done. Then I can assess the true complexion of this lineup, where it feels really complete, really solid, where it feels like this could be a vulnerability later on. Until I know they're done, I can't give you my final thoughts.
I love it. Non-committal. I love it.
I've been pretty committal.
I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you shit.
Brock Nelson. Yes. Ryan Lindgren.
Colleen, thumbs up, thumbs down. Charlie Coyle, how do you feel about the deal? Got a thumbs up. Colleen Flynn, Colorado Hockey Now. We get a thumbs up there. All right. Let's sign off for right now. We will be back one way or the other. We may be live. It may be pre-recorded, but we've got a long day ahead of us still. So ton more content coming. I'm Jesse Montano. She's Meghan Angley. Chloe Thiel is over there helping make all of this happen as well. Hey, JJ, thumbs up on the day so far? That's a resounding thumbs up.
Just surviving.
Yes, just surviving. And hey, that's what we're all trying to do for the rest of today. But we're going to go check out Brock Nelson in burgundy and blue. We're going to hear from him as well. We're going to hear from Chris McFarland. And you guys will be hearing from us one more time. We're here at the Avs practice facility. The deadline is passed. We'll see what other deals are trickling in that are already in queue with the NHL's Central Registry. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We're not done for today. We'll be right back at it here in just a little bit. We'll talk to you then. See you later.
Bye.